Welcome to Better Being Me. I am your host, Joanne Hatchard. Better Being Me is all about celebrating the neurodivergent woman, learning how to be safe and secure enough to drop the masking, embracing the true version of who you are. My goal is to share my stories and those of other neurodivergent people that prove we are not alone in our difficulties. And together we can be celebrating how we have overcome our challenges and fully embrace our life. I want to promote our unique perspective of the world. Welcome back to Better Being Me's podcast, Talking Twaddle. I have had a break from podcasts for about a year and a half, as it turns out. I always had very good intentions of returning and sharing my joy in the talking side of things, but not happened up until right this very moment in time. So I love the medium of making a podcast and being unfiltered in my chat. What I was doing to myself, though, was creating a huge expectation that this little neurodivergent brain wasn't coping with well. I just ignored it, basically, which is what I do when I get overwhelmed about something. I will just ignore it and pretend it never happened, that I didn't make any promises about anything ever, and we'll just move on from that. But I do love podcasting, and so I put in a little bit of time and energy and effort into figuring out what was happening, why I wasn't doing the thing that I really wanted to do, and what's a nicer way of doing it for me that works well for me. So this is me talking twaddle. Welcome. I will be your host, Joanne Hatchard. And here are the couple of changes that I am going to be making that will hopefully mean I will consistently show up in your life, imparting knowledge, not just imparting bits of me more than anything. I really over-analyzed, over-processed, and overdid it all. Surprise! So I created this huge process of what would happen every single podcast, and it was exhausting and draining and didn't leave a lot of space for spontaneous things. I would be pulling it apart and breaking it down and putting it back together so many times that it was kind of a very, very processed piece of media. But, and I couldn't keep up with a 2-week every fortnight release in any way, shape or form. So that died in the ass pretty quick. And so this time round, I am just trying to get out of my own way. I am only aiming for a monthly podcast once a month at the end of the month. That is when I will have a beautiful podcast coming out. And we will be exploring absolutely nothing. It'll be the Seinfeld of podcasts. Not really. Am I allowed to say that? I guess so. I just want to chat to other neurodivergent women and see where we have common interests, and I just want to follow what their interests are. I just want to have a conversation that doesn't need to be intellectualized, that doesn't need to be socialized, it doesn't need to be anything inspirational or educational. I just want to have a chat, and I want to highlight some of the things that we have in common and some of the things that we have different. I really want everyone to see that even if we are all autistic, we're all different. Even if we're all neurodivergent, we're still all different. We are little individual souls with individual loves and individual means of doing all the things, and having these conversations about stuff is one way of doing it. Not the only way of doing it, might not even be the best way of doing it, but it's the way I'm going to try and do it for a while and see how we go. So this is me introducing you to Talking Twaddle, a podcast by Better Being Me, your host, Joanne Hatchard. So what am I aiming for? What am I doing differently this time other than, reducing the expectations on this little soul, attempting to go from fortnightly, which didn't work out anyway, to monthly. Pre-recording some, so I'm not doing it every month, but having a little backup plan. So really reducing the expectations, really paring down to the bit that I actually like doing, which is the chatty chit chat. And finding similar people, and seeing what their special interests are. And then I have asked for help. I know, crazy, right? So I will be getting assistance in the production of my podcasts. I'm very confused about how that will actually happen, in so much as that, my instructions tend to be quite detailed, and I might miss a point somewhere along the line of actually letting somebody else do it. So my big girl britches are on, and I am really going to record and then hand over the reins and say, these are the things I want from this. Go. And see what happens. Probably going to get it wrong several times over. But it's better than not doing anything at all, I think, because it's just an important channel or an important process for me to go through, because it makes my little heart sing to have a little chat and get some of the thoughts out of my head and out into the world, so I can think about other things and put space in for other things. One day you might get makeup and hair done as well, so I can look pretty at the same time. But I'm adding a video component to my podcast. So apparently, I like the videos. It adds a little bit of a multimedia dimension to the whole process, but also it adds a visual clue as to my expressions. But you don't have to sit here and watch, but you can just listen to me. But if you want to look at my face and see how beautiful I am, then you are welcome to. There's an opportunity for you to join me in admiring how awesome I am, which is, one of my big things. What else am I going to do differently other than gaining help? And I'm so excited to have this actually produced and kind of feel inspired to do the one and done, as in this is my one bit of the whole process, and somebody else can take it on after that. To actually get to that point has been a long time coming. So I'm excited to see what my person can be doing, and we'll do a little shout out to them. Maybe I guess we can add credits, right? So if they want to add their bits, then I am happy for them to get credit for their work, because it will be amazing. I have no doubt. I'm vague on their name because I want them to decide that that's something that they're going to do, rather than me just bleh. Utilizing the actual software available. So I used to get somebody amazing to type up this transcript for every podcast that I did. And at the time, it was an expense that I didn't really have an income to match. So it was like an out-of-pocket. It aggravated me. I loved the person that did it, and they were amazing. But now there is the software available that will automatically transcribe the things that I say. So we still get that capacity to do the closed captions. We still get the ability to just draw straight out of that and create it into a blog entry and pull out any social media bites. Like, it's just what you can do with the closed captions and the transcripts is amazing. So yay. What else are we going to do? I'm aiming for longer conversations. This one's probably not going to be very long because I'm just chatting to myself. And as much as I love myself, there's only so much I can talk to me, and about what I plan to do. So don't expect an hour-long one from this release, but in the future, I think you'll find that there are bigger conversations, longer conversations that are probably closer to an hour. And because I'm only releasing monthly, I won't be expecting you to listen to it all at once or watch it all at once. You got a whole month to get through an hour. Aren't I generous? Plus, it takes me that long to get through something that I'm listening to, sometimes just a blip at a time. So they're the things that I am aiming for. Whether or not they happen, that's my goal. I'm looking at my eyebrows. I might get my eyebrows done. They look a little thin, don't they? Oh, dear me. I guess this is one of the beautiful aspects of looking at your face the entire time. I just got thicker glasses, so they kind of highlight my eyebrows. I digress. So what else has changed is the name. It's no longer just the Better Being Me podcast. It is called Talking Twaddle, a podcast from Better Being Me with your host, Joanne Hatchard. That's me. I really want to highlight that there is no expectations from the conversations. There's no... We're aiming to create a bond. We're not aiming for exposure. We're aiming to just create a window into a conversation rather than having it be led by exposure or on trend or, like I was saying, intellectualize things or educational or inspirational. I just want to share a conversation and share stories and allow how our brains map to new areas and map to new topics, and how we pull in and categorize. That sounds like we're aiming for a lot, but it's really, there's nothing active in that. It's just going to be a conversation. It's just a conversation, and these are how they unfold for me, because I love talking about people's passions, and I love finding a skerrick of information that I know about their passions and expanding on that and questioning that and validating my information. That's just how my big conversations go. There's not this is how I talk to people. This is just how it happens. So there's not ever and even when I try and be inspirational, sometimes it just falls flat on its face. So it's given up. You'll find inspiration in whatever you find inspiration in. I cannot aim to be an inspiration. It won't work that way. But I like connections. I like drawing dots between information and finding people excited and passionate about what they're excited and passionate about. I do love connecting them with my own stories. That is something that I tend to do, is that I'll listen to your story and then I'll match it with, but I'll share my side of what my similar experience. And that is how I let you know who I'm about and what's for me and how I feel about things. And that's how you get to know me, is just by me sharing my stories from stuff that might be vaguely related to your stories in some way, shape or form, or not, as the case may be. I sometimes get it really wrong, so sorry about that. But I do love that connection, and I love highlighting how similar we are and how different we are, and how sometimes it's just a synchronicity that we may have been in the same place at the same, maybe not even at the same time, but at the same place at some point, that we have a general understanding about one thing in particular, and exploring that and the possibilities that could have been, and the possibilities that could be in the future. Oh, future thinking. Yes, I'm a big fan of future thinking. I love just that free roaming chat, the meandering through subjects and through conversations and a stream of thought, and allowing that to be okay without having rules and boundaries around how a conversation should be going and what its aim in that conversation should be doing. Just that talking twaddle that you used to do when you were a kid, like just that allowing the brain to exercise its imagination and spread out whichever way comes up, and doing that with another person rather than just me is amazing. And that's my preference, always my preference. But I do love the big talks. I do love asking lots of questions and trying to find maybe solutions to some what if conversations. But it does bring me back to the name of the podcast now, which is Talking Twaddle, a Better Being Me podcast with your host, Joanne Todd. Just in case you forgot. My mum would always listen to me ramble on and or get aggravated with me asking so many questions or ponderance or wonderings. Just basically she was wanting me to shut up more often than not. But she would say, Joanne, you talk such twaddle. And that would shut me down. And it would be embarrassing to be, well, I'm sure she wasn't aiming to be rejected. But I would try and then elevate my conversations all the time and try and show how intelligent I am and how many connections I've made and how much understanding I have of all the things. And it becomes quite a boring conversation, and I sound like a teenager trying to be cool, which doesn't work at all. So what I'm aiming to do is just, instead of hiding all of those conversations or questions or rabbit holes that I want to throw into, instead of having a point of a conversation, I just want to share and talk and see where it leads us more than anything else. So that's probably enough of an intro to Talking Twaddle, a podcast from Better Being Me, or a Better Being Me podcast with your host, Joanne Hatchard. I do have some exciting chats coming up, and they'll be dripped through once a month. At the end of the month is my goal. And it would be amazing for you to send me any questions or comments on what you have and what your thoughts are, who you'd like to chat to, what would be a dream conversation for you, I like those imaginations and future thinking conversations. Sometimes I imagine what it would be to talk to Nikola Tesla for a bit, and if he would actually have much to say, or would it be more like a lecture and I'm just sitting there listening to all of his stuff in awe. I think about him just a little bit too much sometimes. I don't have the educational capacity to understand what he is talking about in any way, shape or form. But I like the idea that there is a harnessing of vibrations that can be translated into electricity. And that's basically my understanding of what his theories were about, and some of his bigger or more general knowledge inventions were pulling the energy from the atmosphere or the air, I think, and then transmuting that into a directional electricity. So something that you can actually utilize for power. I guess it would need to be in a concentrated area for it to be. So for a light to turn on, you'd need to have that energy concentrated into one stream to affect the light, because obviously if it's sparse and spattered out all over where, then there's not enough concentrated energy into the one piece of equipment to actually turn it on. But yeah, that would be an awesome conversation, wouldn't it? Or what about the guy that first started doing mapping? That would be fun. I wouldn't even know what's that, cardiology? Cardiograph? Anyway, I digress yet again. It has been lovely to be back. I hope to be back more often. Before I sign off, thanks for your patience. Do have a backlog of podcasts that I would love for you to listen to. And we'll see if you can hear the change. But this is Joanne Hatchard, your host for the day on Talking Twaddle, a Better Being Me podcast. I just a bit about me before I sign off. I am a private practice social worker, currently running Better Being Me, a neurodiverse family therapy. You can check my socials out on Instagram is betterbeingme_BBME, or Facebook is Better Being Me. I am a speaker. I love to talk at just full stop. I love to talk. I love to talk to conventions and panels. I love to be a guest speaker. I am also a trainer. I run parent training groups called Be Me Completely. So that is also a passion of mine, where we can really highlight that the parent is in charge of the environment for any children. And so if we've got neurodivergent parents and neurodivergent kids, then making sure that we understand what stress behavior looks like and bringing in some sustainable self-care in regards to that. But I can talk about that another day. But that's all from me. That's not too bad. That was only like 20 minutes. We can do that more often. Maybe. I'll be back. Thanks for joining.